Hey everyone, it's Sarah. Some of you may have noticed, but I have decided to move my writing videos to Thursdays instead of Wednesdays so that I can do Top 5 Wednesday if I want to. So from now on, you can look for my writing tip videos on Thursdays. In the month of May, I'm going to be talking about writing as a business. And today, specifically, I'm going to be talking about how to make money as a writer. Now, these are not all necessarily making money on your writing, but these are all ways to make money in a writing-related way. The first one might seem kind of obvious, but it is publishing books. This is obviously where a lot of writers make the majority of their money. You may think of this as, you know, these huge bestsellers like Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, but the reality is that there are far more writers who are still making a living at writing, but they're probably what we call mid-list authors, meaning that they don't sell quite as much as the bestsellers, but they sell enough to make a living. Then, of course, there is independent publishing and self-publishing. Obviously, there's a lot of competition in these areas, but it is possible to make a living self-publishing your books or independently publishing your books. You're going to have to do a lot of marketing, whether you're traditionally published or self-published, most likely. Even if you are traditionally published, most big publishers expect the author to do at least some marketing, especially if you're a debut author or you don't really have the name recognition. But publishing books is a good way to make money as a writer. The next thing you can do is freelance writing. Now, this is either writing for magazines, newspapers, websites. Some websites want to hire freelance bloggers. This can be a little bit more difficult to get into. It helps if you have a background in writing with experience or education, or sometimes it helps if you have connections, but not always. I mean, it really depends on which publication you want to write for. So if there's a magazine or newspaper that you really want to write for, I would just look into if they take submissions from freelance writers and what the process is there. Just do a little bit of research to find out some publications that you might want to write for. Or if you have an idea for a story, you might want to do some research to find newspapers or magazines that you could pitch that story to. The third thing that you can do is web content. This is a pretty broad category, but everyone needs a website in every industry now. And a lot of people don't want to necessarily write their own content for their websites. Now, this isn't always the most interesting thing because you can end up writing about, you know, lawn maintenance or refrigerators or all kinds of random stuff, which might be interesting to you, but it might not. But the point is that it pays the bills. Now, there are a lot of websites where people go to get this content, like Textbroker and Elance is a big one. Thumbtack is another big one where people just go to hire freelancers in general. They do that on Elance as well. Some companies will even hire a person to regularly write blogs for them or write web content for them. Some marketing companies will hire someone to write web content for a lot of different people that they do marketing for. I've worked in positions like that before. There are a lot of different ways to get into this. I did a blog recently about some of these websites that do hire writers to write web content for them, and I will link to that down below if you're interested. The next thing you can do is blogging. Blogs can make money. There are people who make a living entirely off of their blog. There are also YouTubers who make a living doing YouTube, which is kind of the same thing. It's like a video blog. essentially. This is the kind of thing where I don't think you should just quit your day job to be a professional blogger. You might want to just start a blog or start a YouTube channel vlogging or making videos about something that you're passionate about. And if you start making money with it, then that's great. You can kind of build up your following and make money that way. Sometimes your blog can lead to making money some other way if you're selling your services on your blog. For example, I have a writing blog. I do get a lot of editing clients who come to me through the blog. Which brings me to the next thing you can do to make money as a writer, and that is editing. Now, this is good for people who have English degrees, or in my case, a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, or if you already have a lot of experience publishing your own books. A lot of this is on a freelance basis. For instance, self-published authors hire me a lot to edit their manuscripts. And sometimes I do developmental editing as well. An author might come to me with a manuscript that's not quite working, and I will read it and give them feedback based on everything I've studied in the art of creative writing, and give them some suggestions about ways they might be able to improve the manuscript. There are also editors for magazines and publications. With all of the web content out there, some companies, if they're dealing with a lot of web content, they might hire an editor to overlook everything that the writers are giving them. The sixth way that you can make money as a writer is by teaching. Now, this often requires an English degree or a master's degree sometimes, but not always. There are some classes, for example, in continuing education type facilities or community centers or places like that that offer writing classes. And if you have any experience with writing, you might be able to teach something like that. There's also writing coaching that people do on a more one-on-one level. I do some of that. And there's also running your own course online. That's something that I would like to do eventually. And then there's also teaching at a high school level or a college level, but that often requires more education, getting an education degree specifically sometimes. As a word of caution, I would say that I don't think you should necessarily go into teaching if you don't have some passion for teaching people and helping people in that way. And the last thing that you can do is to acquire a writing related job. This sounds pretty vague, I know, but there are a lot of different companies that hire people like technical writers, copywriters. A lot of people in advertising and marketing need people to write. There are ghost writers. You can look into doing something like that. You can do most of these things on a freelance level as well, but if you're looking for more stability, this might be the way to go. Some of these things, like technical writing, require a lot of experience or education specific to that field. If you're interested in one of these positions, I would just do some research. You can learn a lot of stuff by just going on Google and doing a simple search. You know, what do you need to become a technical writer? How do I become a ghostwriter? So a lot of people ask me how I make money. I have published some of my own works. I've self-published a few things, and I've independently published a few things with some really small independent publishers. These have mainly been poetry and plays. I'm still trying to get my first traditional book publishing deal. I have a literary agent, so I'm not really making a lot of my money in publishing at this point. I do make some money from the books that I have published in a small way, but most of the money that I make comes from freelance editing, the writing coaching that I do. I do some freelance writing. I write a lot of web content for people. And I do some marketing, but I do that on a freelance level as well. So those are just a few ways that you can make money as a writer. If you want to make money as a writer, I encourage you to keep going and to not give up. You might have to get a day job and do something unrelated to pay your bills and kind of build up your writing on the side. That's perfectly fine. A lot of people do it that way. I had to do it that way for years. And even now, I'm not making the majority of my money on my actual writing at this point. I'm making a lot of my money in writing related services that I sell to other people. Basically, if you have the drive and determination, you can make money as a writer, but it requires a lot of perseverance and hard work. So those are the ways that people make money as a writer. I'm sure there are other ones that I didn't talk about. Feel free to mention those down below. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below as well. I would love to hear from you guys. Next week, I will be talking about how to be productive when you're working from home, something that I have struggled with in the past. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more videos about writing or books. And make sure you subscribe to my mailing list down below, The Daily Writer, for daily writing inspiration. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Happy writing!